My lesson is on teaching how to make pictographs and bar graphs. This lesson in state standard is for grade level 2. This subdomain is measurement and data, and the cluster is level 2, basic application of skills and concept. The state standard states, draw a picture graph and a bar graph with single unit scale to represent data set with up to 4 categories. Solve simply and put together, take apart, and compare problems using information presented in a bar graph. Categories being banana, apple, and cherry. Then we would draw the pictograph on the board. Pictographs are done horizontally, so we would start with drawing 3 horizontal columns, labeling the categories, banana, apple, and cherry, and then labeling the graph for the title of the graph, fruit collected. Then I would show the students the representation of the tally through the pictures. There's banana pictures, apple chip pictures, and cherry pictures. Those would be put in the column with the corresponding label. Then we would show the finished graph and explain that the graph is a clear representation of the tally and an easy way for people to review and see the data in a quick manner. We would make then 3 pictographs where I show them. Then we do 3 graphs where they participate and students were called to the board to help create the graph, label the columns, and place the pictures in the correct area. Then the students would have the opportunity to make 3 graphs for independent practice before we move on. Here is a slide of a finished pictograph that would be displayed on the board for students to see the correct areas of the graph and the necessary components, including the labels in the columns, the title, and the pictures to represent the data. Next, we would move on to bar graphs. First, again, we would take a tally of the students' favorite sports. Taking a tally in the classroom creates motivation and participation with students and gets them interested in making the graph. So then we would draw the graph. We would draw the horizontal line and explaining that that is the straight across line down at the bottom of the board. Then we would draw the vertical line, the y-axis. One good tip is to say Y to the sky. This is an easy way for students to remember the difference between the Y and the x-axis. Then we would label the horizontal axis with the sports categories. In this graph, we will be doing 4 sports of soccer, basketball, baseball, and football. Then we want to label the y-axis. The y-axis needs to be labeled in increments of 10. In this one, we labeled in increments of counting by 2s. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then we're going to label the x-axis with the sports and draw the bars. So now that we have our tally and the students have voted how many enjoy which sport, we will create the bars. Each sport needs to have its own bar over the correct label category of soccer, basketball, baseball, and football. Then, lastly, we will label the graph. Today, we are going to call it our favorite sports. And then we will have a completed graph on the board for students to see. And there's our graph. So again, the students would do 3 graphs with me where I'm showing them the correct format and the necessary elements to have a complete bar graph. Then we would do 3 together where each student would be called up to either label the categories, label the numbers, or create the bars. I would be asking questions while creating this to make sure that they understand the correct place and number amount throughout the graph. Then lastly, the students would be asked to do 3 graphs independently with provided data. And then our final activity, I would be giving the students a blank piece of paper, and then a set of candy, M&Ms or Skittles, some sort of item that's going to have multiple colors in one small packet, and asking the students to please label the graphs with their corresponding colored candy packet. This would provide the students with an easy way to see how each graph is different and to have independent time to label a graph using different data that is not just provided for them, but they discover on their own. And that's how I would show my students how to make a pictograph and a bar graph. Both of these lessons would provide students with the ability to have an I do, we do, you do, and gives them information to create graphs on their own. And that's it. Thank you.